They see the people at the very top doing better than they ever have, while they're left to wonder, who's looking out for me? That's Donald Trump's presidency. 215,000 dead because of COVID. Experts say we're likely to lose another 200,000 people in the next few months unless we take some serious action, and he doesn't know what he's doing. All because this president's only worried about one thing, the stock market. He refuses to follow the science. It's estimated that if we just wore these masks nationally, we'd save over 100,000 lives between now and the end of the year. This president knew back in January. He was briefed in detail by the intelligence community how extremely dangerous this COVID virus was, how communicable the disease was. He went in a taped interview with Bob Woodward, a leading journalist. It's on tape, been played, telling Woodward that he knew how dangerous the disease was, but did nothing. Ask yourself, why didn't he tell us? Why didn't he warn us? He said nothing. He told Woodward that he didn't want to panic the American people. That's why he said nothing. We don't panic. America doesn't panic. But Trump panicked. His reckless personal conduct since his diagnosis has been unconscionable. The longer Donald Trump is president, the more reckless he seems to get. Dr. Fauci, the most respected doc on this issue in the world, in the country, he told the president, you know, the president's announcement of his pick for the Supreme Court in the Rose Garden, he referred to that as a super spreader. All those people that got the disease. How's he responding? Well, guess what? He's now running an ad you probably saw, a national ad quoting Dr. Fauci out of context. Way back in March, referring to public health officials, Dr. Fauci said, "I can't imagine that anybody could be doing more," end of quote. In the recent ads that's going out nationally, Trump ad quotes Dr. Fauci is saying that about him, the president. Trump and his campaign deliberately lied, making it sound like Fauci was talking about Trump. Fauci went on the public air, and the ad came out saying 3 days ago, "I did not give permission for that quote." He wasn't referring to the president. And even after that, Fauci said he didn't say that. The president and the campaign, even after Fauci laid this out, the campaign said, we're still going to use it because he did say it, even though it wasn't about him. The point I'm trying to make is it was a knowing lie, like we're being told about everything about this COVID consequences. As a consequence to his months of overwhelming lying, misleading, and irresponsible action on the part of Donald Trump, how many empty chairs were around your breakfast table this morning? Someone you loved, someone you cared about, someone you knew, a family member or a neighbor, missing. And why? Because of negligence. Look, I view this campaign, as I've said before, and I'll say it again, between Scranton and Park Avenue, between Toledo and Park Avenue. All Trump can see is from Park Avenue is Wall Street. That's why his only metric for American prosperity that he values is the Dow Jones and the index. Like a lot of you, I spent a lot of my time with guys like Trump looking down on me, the Irish Catholic kid in the neighborhood. Guys who thought they were better than me because they had a lot of money. Guys who inherited everything they ever got and still managed to squander it. I have to admit, and I shouldn't have done it, but I've on record saying it, so I'll repeat it. I still have a little bit of chip on my shoulder about guys like him. I read some stories after I got the nomination that, quote, if Biden gets elected, he'll be the first non-Ivy League school graduate to get elected in I think it was 80 or 90 years. Guys, have a seat, man. You know what? Like some state school guy went to the University of Delaware, I was proud of it. Hard to get there, hard to get through in terms of money. But folks, since when can someone who went to a state university not be qualified to be president? Folks, I know what it takes to be president. I sat next to a man for 8 years watching and participating. My mom taught me that what you're probably taught by your parents too. Say, Joey, nobody is better than you, but everybody's your equal. I don't measure people based on the size of their bank account. I don't respect people based on whether they own a mansion. I don't judge them whether they're based on whether they belong to a country club. You and I measure people by the strength of their character, their honesty, their courage. Their courage. My mom used to say the greatest gift of all, the greatest virtue is courage. You're redeemed by your courage. That's what she'd say, and redeemed by your loyalty. Honesty, loyalty, things that are bigger than yourself. They're the neighborhoods we were raised in. It's all about family, decency, honor, opportunity. These are the values I learned growing up in Scranton. My guess is you learned growing up in Toledo, wherever you grew up. The people I grew up in Scranton didn't have any money in stocks. In our house growing up, every penny my dad made went to paying the bills, keeping the lights on and food on the table. Every penny our friends in Scranton made went to paying the bills and taking care of their families as well. And we looked out for our neighbors. That's why I have a different measure by which I judge the health of America's economy. I see hard-working women and men who are just trying to earn an honest living and take care of their families, just want an even shot. They're not asking for anything, they're just asking for a fair shot. And you know, given a shot, the American people have never, ever, ever, ever let their country down. Never. The other expression my dad would have, he said, when you see the abuse of power, there's only one way to respond to it, and that's with power. And the only power we have to take on corporate America is union power. That's the only power. I just think back to 2008 when Barack and I were elected and we inherited the worst recession short of a depression in history. The President put me in charge of the Recovery Act, $800 billion was needed to save our economy from going into depression. We did it with less than 0.2% waste or fraud. We're able to see to it that Ohio and other states receive substantial assistance to address their economic pain and recover and rebuild, to make sure we kept teachers, firefighters, and cops, public nurses on the job. People are being laid off now because you don't have the local money to do it. So they didn't have to be fired because of lack of money. That was the federal government stepped up. And it started the longest sustained economic recovery in American history that this guy inherited and then squandered again. But you know what Mitch McConnell said recently about helping the states and cities? He said, quote, let them go bankrupt. Well, I heard that before. You heard it too. Republicans said the same thing about the automobile industry. Like I said, I come from an automobile state and an automobile man. The auto industry, supported 1 in 8 Ohioans, was on the brink. It was more than 10 years ago, but you remember it like it was yesterday. It was on the brink. But Barack and I bet on you and the American worker, and it paid off. I argue that the American worker was the finest auto worker in the world. Management screwed it up. You didn't. You didn't make the mistake. And by the way, it all got paid back, but guess who made the greatest sacrifices? Auto workers.